Hi and welcome to SME Biz TV, the show that brings you bite-sized business strategies for today's SMEs.
So what's going on today? I think we've got this really cool show today. Something that was really unexpected. It came through one of our networking events, and we've been dying to meet these guys for a while, and we're so honored to be able to have them on the show. We've got Shashi and Nick and Montrose over here from Nervora. And guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, really cool to have you guys on the show. So we just want to sort of say, we've heard a lot about what's going on with your business and stuff. Let's explore. What is Nervora? What do you guys do?
I guess the answer to that question is that we've kind of evolved since we started. When we started, we were more of an advertising company. We're now in the midst of an evolution to becoming more of a media company. I think we kind of fit at the intersection of advertising and media, and we help really great international publishers do things that are more catered to this region.
Yeah, so basically on a day-to-day basis, we represent some of the world's largest brands within the MENA region. So if you're visiting any site from Conde Nast, Hearst, CBS Interactive, Gawker Media, or most recently Viacom, you're being served ads that our team is selling on their behalf in the region. And naturally, being such large titles, they actually draw a fairly large audience already. So people looking up fashion news on style.com, looking about cars on Car and Driver, or any of those titles that you've probably already seen in the magazine rack.
Very cool. Well, there's been some developments, obviously. Now, we heard quite a long time ago that Conde Nast, which, since you mentioned the name, Conde Nast had said one day, maybe they're not going to make it out to the Middle East anytime soon, and somehow you guys have been able to convert that. What was the secret behind this?
I think it comes down to being able to do something that just people understand creates some amount of value. I mean, the backstory behind why they chose not to enter the region for such a long time is quite interesting. And they, as a company, like most other people in sort of the fashion space, they're built on legacy. They're a 120-year-old company. About 2 weeks ago, Vogue celebrated its 125th birthday. And everything that they've ever done internationally has been the vision of the family that runs it. So it's a privately owned company. It's part of a larger company called Advanced Publications. That's one of the 50 largest companies in America. And since the 50s, they've been run by a family called the Newhouse family. And so they've had a really strong vision and managed to build a company that has stayed very close to that vision as they've grown abroad. And so about 6 years ago, when Elle magazine launched here in the Middle East, they came out on record saying that they weren't really interested in coming to the region, and that was seen to be a pretty powerful statement, because most people wouldn't say something that's that intentionally provocative. And it came down to two real reasons. So one, as an American company, there's always been a little bit of a stigma around doing business in the Middle East, certainly in the last decade, that I think has grown a little bit stronger with the US being involved in a war here and there being some instability. But the second part of it is, as a company, they've built their entire philosophy around the idea of female empowerment, and this region, unfortunately, isn't necessarily known for that. And so we, as a company, we started working with Conde Nast about 3 years ago to represent their ad sales here in the region, as Nick mentioned. And over the past few years, we've really proven that there is, one, commercial viability, but more so than that, that it is possible to build a business here and stay true to your vision and your own ideology. And so through a series of years and multiple meetings, we managed to convince them that it was the right time to come.
Well
That's
done,
awesome.
guys. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Now, you must obviously have the work culture, the kind of work culture that also, befits the kind of growth that you're seeing right now. We've heard that you guys have gone from a startup, small in a couple of years, and now you're up to how many staff members do you have?
We're closing in on 15.
Well done.
Yeah.
And you were three people that started the company?
Two.
Wow.
Yeah, we went from, over the past, almost three years now, we went from basically crashing on Shashi's couch to an office the size of a phone booth to kind of now having 2 offices in the loft area of Dubai Media City.
Yeah, it takes a special amount of skill to fit 4 people into a phone booth. But somehow we managed to do that when we got started.
And then the height? So why, what was the idea when you started the company? I mean, it's always interesting. I mean, we have a lot of SMEs and entrepreneurs maybe having an idea to start a company or, dreaming of it at least. So can you give us a little bit more on the background on why you did it and how you did it?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll give the joke answer. He can probably give the more serious one.
Typical leader of the company.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
No, but I mean, when we started, like, I think the big vision that we had was that in 2009, the region finally hit critical mass in terms of the amount of people accessing the internet. And it's a large region. I mean, 350 million Arabic speakers. But in 2009, the region crossed 50 million people accessing the internet, and that to us represented critical mass. And what we found was that there were a lot of people here in the region that were interested in specific types of content, like fashion, technology, travel, lifestyle, automotive, but there wasn't a lot of indigenous content being produced here, either in English or Arabic. And the people that were interested in that content were accessing international content because that's where the best content was coming from. And none of those companies happened to be active here in the region. So we went out and approached them, but the sort of joke that we went forward with is we want to make media and advertising here in the region suck a little bit less. And that was part of our pitch. And there's a big slide in the beginning of the presentation that says it can suck less, and we want to be the reason why it sucks less.
I think the other important thing behind the story too is just like how critical it is to find the right co-founder or the right co-founders.
Yeah, it's very critical.
Shashi, it's not like we just decided one day to, like we actually weren't really friends until like later in life. It's not like we've been childhood friends, but
we're still not.
not at all. It helps to have
still not
distance.
Still not childhood friends, so that's
exactly.
good to know.
Must spend all that time in the phone booth, I guess.
Yeah. But no, so I was working at TechCrunch and writing there, and this guy was just always bugging me. He'd been in the Middle East for quite some time, and like every time he was kind of coming up with ideas. What are you thinking about this? What are you thinking about that? Until finally I decided at TechCrunch, the reason why I started covering startups and technology wasn't because I was interested in being a journalist, but because I was interested in working at those startups and starting startups myself. So after I'd left and actually one company in between, Shashi finally got me when I was free and deciding what I wanted to do next. Being young and very flexible, I just said, hey, why not move to the Middle East? That, as Shashi was describing, there's this big and still growing media opportunity out here to service an underserved market here. And I just packed up all my things, and rather than getting a return ticket, I just said, hey, why not go out to the Middle East and see how things go, and if I like it, I'll stay, and if I don't, I'll go back to the US.
Well, that sounds like actually quite the story for a startup, right? I mean, you sort of drop the things that you in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
A nice cushy job with a company like TechCrunch, for example, or whatever media company you may have worked for, or something like that, and all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm going to jump in the pool, make a big splash, and get out there and try it out. Is that the kind of advice that you give to a lot of our startup and entrepreneurs that are out there? What kind of advice would you tell them about, let's say that they're in a good position somewhere, but they have this idea, just like you guys had? What would you suggest?
Well, finding the right, I think finding the right I wouldn't start a company just by yourself. Give yourself space to, I guess, iterate and develop over time. So find somebody, I mean, we went through lots and lots of ideas actually even before kind of putting it down on paper and advertising to market exactly what we're going to do. So I mean, we have like earlier decks that were about like advertising in telco systems, like looking in their back ends and how we can make SMS advertising more efficient and just trying to find a market. And I think one of the things that was it Eric Rise or
yeah,
kind of talking about that product market fit, and really like the whole first year of us, and actually maybe even 2 years, was really getting to the point where we had a product market fit, where we finally were defined, because I don't know, something I've always seen is that a lot of times your business is almost defined by what it doesn't do, because there's so many opportunities out there right now, particularly in the digital space, that we come from technical backgrounds as well as business backgrounds. So there are a lot of things that we could dabble in, and so there's a big decision of us not going into e-commerce. There's a big decision of us not going into social gaming, not going into these other areas that we could explore, and kind of focusing on where we're seeing the greatest kind of return on investment from our efforts.
Yeah, no, I think that advice is really critical. I mean, it's far harder to say no than it is to say yes. And early on, we certainly made that mistake a lot, saying yes to anything that kind of came in the door that seemed like it could lead somewhere. And part of that process is useful because it helps you figure out what you're really good at and what you want to do. But part of it can also be really toxic if you end up spreading yourself way too thin. So I think one of the things that is really useful is just, as Nick mentioned, try to explore things early on, see what you can do in a really simple way, and try to find out what that product market fit is. And for me, I mean, I was kind of moonlighting for a little while, for a couple of months as we were getting started and figuring it out. And so I guess having a certain stamina and a willingness to deal with a very unstructured environment and figuring things out is really critical. And that to us took a long time.
And we still haven't gotten that figured out by any means.
Well, you guys are in a growth phase anyway, as it is with the business growing. You're up to 15 people now, and there's been a lot of successes as well as you're coming along. That's very sound advice. We've heard over time, and as we've consulted some small and mid-sized businesses, we call it shiny objects. There's far too many opportunities out there, and yet it's just too easy to try to chase money.
Absolutely.
And rather than chasing the actual dream itself of developing whatever it is that your product or service was. So, but you guys have definitely seemed to be on the right track with that. You're a growing company. My question to you right now is, you guys have a lot of different titles that are part of, your portfolio. Where is the trend going? I mean, what's sort of taking over in terms of the business you're doing most? So I think, you've got the Conde Nast and some other titles there, but where are you guys actually headed next?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've personally built our entire business around a really deep belief in brands and kind of premium brands. And if you look at the brands that we work with, it's really market leaders in whatever segments that they're in. And there's a reason why a company like Conde Nast has been so successful over decades. If you look at the different titles that they have, and they publish around 28 titles today, almost anyone who has any association with the media will have a very personal connection with at least one of their titles. I mean, if it's fashion, it's GQ or Vogue or Vanity Fair. If it's travel, it's Conde Nast Traveler. If it's technology, it's Wired. They also have a whole bunch of others. And so I think kind of we've seen that where the market's going, or where we believe it's going, is that in the segments that we're interested in, we want to be working with market leaders, whether we do that through partnerships or by publishing our own titles. And I think as the market matures a little bit more, those are the brands that are really going to start to stand out and be the sort of brands that have longevity. And that's kind of
the
what we're trying to build
reputation
towards.
also of the company that you're working with. It's putting you in a different position than
It's
maybe
by
other
association,
people as
I
well.
guess. But so now you guys have so many different titles under your belt. Which one's the one that sort of really catapulted itself out to market? Is it more like a CNET because you're talking about tech? Is it more like a fashion brand? What's out there right now?
Well, I'd have to say that between kind of the two largest categories that we're operating in, technology and fashion, they're so popular just because those topics are so universal. There's, when you're looking at any news from Apple comes from Palo Alto and or Cupertino, basically. So that news, it's not as if like local publishers or in any other market actually other than the US have teams there that are covering that. So tech news is very international, as is fashion news very international, because that news is being broken outside of the region. So those kind of found their audiences in the Middle East very rapidly. So CNET is drawing something, over 2.25 million people just within the GCC alone, kind of that large of an audience. And so that's a massive, opens up a massive market of people for local advertisers or regional players to have access to that they hadn't had previously. But I guess as the trend of our company is overall, we're moving from the advertising, just representing advertising against these properties, to doing a better job of servicing the local market by having either indigenous titles or kind of localized titles that are available in English and Arabic. I mean, people normally talked about how underserved the Arabic market was just by 1% of the content being in Arabic, but it's not only just about the amount of content that's there, kind of words on a page, but also the quality of that and following the brands.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you've launched something recently, some Arabic?
Yeah, so Style.com Arabia, which we launched with Conde Nast about 3 months ago, is a bilingual title, which is quite rare here. I mean, if you look at most titles here, they're published in a single language. Certainly in fashion, that's the case. And even titles that are published in 2 languages typically publish very different versions depending on the language. One of the big things that we believed in when launching Style.com Arabia is we really wanted to democratize the information that we were publishing. And so both versions are exactly the same sort of content. We didn't want to present a different story to a different audience, because we know that they're interested in fashion as a category and as a topic. And so everything that we published is available in both languages at the same time.
I think there has to be a pet title coming out soon.
Absolutely.
Just because of Montrose here.
Absolutely. We may just start to do pets and fashion, and then just like get them some clothing.
Actually, apparently that's really huge in the States, obviously, with, Paris Hilton and so on, clothing their animals. I think she has something like a house that's befitting of Paris Hilton's dog.
Absolutely.
There's a whole website called Dogster that was built off of a social network for people who own pets.
Actually, very innovative ideas. So now for our viewers out there, we want to be able to get a hold of you guys. We want to be able to know what kind of websites you have, where should they go, also the new launch. Is there any event coming up now that you want to tell our audience about? Is there anything that's developing for you this year in 2013 that we should focus on as a timeline?
I think our expectation is that we'll probably have other titles launching at some stage this year. Nothing yet that we can talk about conclusively, but the direction that we're going is having other titles.
Very cool.
And partnerships.
And partnerships, yeah. We do have some others coming as well.
So I guess what we're saying is that we should be really watching out for Nervora and keeping track and keeping an ear out for what you guys are up to.
Well, you can check out our blog at blog.nervora.com. That's, Nervora, Nervora.com.
Excellent. Awesome. And don't forget that link is going to be at the bottom of the page just below the video. So go and take a look at these guys and see what they're up to. So,
any final thoughts, advice that you wanna give to our audience today?
Make sure your dog is well fed before.
Exactly. Try to find a dog who has some teeth. No, I mean I think one of the things that Nick pointed to early is actually really good advice. Is trying to build yourself a little bit of a support system as you're getting started. A co-founder is a great way to do that because it's a slow burn as you're building a startup, and you have to be willing to really spend a lot of time trying to get things right. And we're now entering our 4th year, and it's amazing how much time you'll actually devote to trying to solve something.
Well, we've heard that sometimes your staff are worried about you guys because you guys are working far too hard, long hours, but I think that's the whole point of being an entrepreneur, is that when you're in love with what you do and you're so passionate about it, you actually put in the time and you reap the rewards later. But it looks like you guys have done an amazing job already growing, so you definitely put in the time for that.
Yeah, my mom came here to visit me a couple of months ago, and pretty much everyone here complained to her about me, so it didn't work out so well.
Well, one last thing before we get going on to the next segment, which is the SME Biz TV Lit moment, which we're excited about. What's the story between Monty? You said something about his name. Are we allowed to say that publicly now?
Yeah, he actually has a Twitter account. He's named after the founder of Conde Nast, whose name was Conde Montrose Nast. And we just thought it was a really regal name for this young guy.
So what's the Twitter account we can maybe follow Monty?
His Twitter account is @StyleMontrose.
Nice.
And he tweets about fashion events. He's a dog in the fashion industry.
He's got that keyboard for the pause, I think.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Exactly.
Very cool. Well, I guess we just want to really thank you guys for the time that you've had to even afford us right now to come see you. I know you guys are really, really busy. For all of our viewers, these guys are awesome. Check them out. They were a startup a few years ago. Now they're growing. They're in mid-growth phase. And keep coming down to the blog at blog.nervora.com to check out what's up and coming with the show, and with them, and also with Monty and his Twitter account. Are we off to the next segment?
I think so.
Which is our favorite segment?
Yes, it is. The SME Biz TV. Okay, let me start again.
Too much chocolate from the previous interview.
Never have enough chocolate.
No, never have
enough.
Maybe
We
you
actually
should
have
say
too much
this.
chocolate in the office right now.
Well, we'll be donating some lint to you guys at the end of this segment. But we'll be seeing you guys at the end of this segment, SME Biz TV Lit Moment. Thanks again to Shashi and Nick from Nervora and Monty for coming out for the show. And we can't wait to see you guys grow even bigger and faster in the future.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Hey, and welcome back to SME Biz TV. Now we're going to be doing our SME Biz TV Lint Moment with Shashi and Nick from Nervora. And today, what are we going to talk about? I think because we're not rating an app today, but we are definitely having Lint. Yummy. So what is it that we're going to be talking about?
Well, we thought about talking a little bit about the work culture, because there's a lot of talk about it in big companies that they have certain things for the employees and stuff. So we just want to know a little bit about your thoughts and what you do and how you make your employees happy, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess for me, culture isn't necessarily something that comes from, a calendar of activities or something like that, but grows more organically out of the people who are actually working there. So one thing that we found, I think, early on, we've had the pleasure of working with a lot of different people over the past couple of years, but what we found is that we started off hiring kind of towards a specific skill set, and then later on found that what's even more important, since there's so much learning, we're working in the knowledge industry, is hiring not just for people who have kind of raw talent and skills in the area, but also for people who fit with the culture that we have here. So that's kind of, if you, I guess amongst us, we kind of have a certain degree of levity, a strong focus on the work, and being skilled and being talented, and taking control and ownership over what you're working on, and being innovative and pushing ideas forward with kind of like a minimal level of supervision because we have to move fast, but then also the ability to kind of play around as well, I guess, with Montrose as it may be.
Yeah, you're the first people that we've actually met that have a dog in the office. I don't know how your landlord feels about that, but
just don't mention where we have
don't mention our office number.
We're not geolocating this episode, don't worry. Exactly. So, but earlier you guys privately off camera when we were talking, you guys had said that you don't always take yourself so seriously. How does that work for you? I guess how does your staff feel about that? Because you guys are the leaders, but you're young. You're not some older 50-plus-year-old guy that everyone has to feel scared about. You guys are young, energetic.
Actually, both of us are 63, but we use excellent moisturizer.
Oh, awesome. You guys are like Yoda.
Yeah, excellent moisturizer.
You get that information from the stylearabia.com.
Exactly. How to look 40 years younger.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think, to Nick's point, culture really comes out of the people more than anything else. It's not really a set of rules, and the people early on make a much greater difference than people later on. So the first 5, 10, 15, 20 people, as you grow, will make the biggest impact. So trying to find people who fit in to that cultural mentality that you have is critically important. And I think, for us, it's, we take the work seriously. We don't really take ourselves seriously. And up until very recently, we had a 3-meter tall cartoon dinosaur as a mascot on our wall, which I was overruled, and everyone kind of voted that one down. But I think, being able to kind of see the contrast between mentality and the actual work has always been really fun for me.
I think it's also, one other thing core to what we do is an acceptance of failure, of course within bounds, but
he fails a lot, so he's really, really well accepted.
Yeah, because
he introduced that rule, right?
You have to try things out, so you're not going to get everything right the first time. I mean, a lot of people, every company and every situation and every decision is a little bit different, so you can kind of go on best practices, but you don't really know how it's going to turn out until you get your feet in the water. And we would much rather have people try something and fail, and then readjust than kind of not try at all. But the biggest failure would be not kind of learning from that and not iterating.
I guess at some point you can say that you want them to think for themselves and they want to come up with ideas that can be implemented. And I guess also it's part of being proud of where you work, that you take ownership of working for that company, and that can help change it and move forward and for the better, really.
Yeah, I mean, good ideas can come from anywhere. So I think being in an environment that kind of fosters that origination process is really helpful.
That's very cool. Well, look, guys, thanks very much again for this SME Business moment. Now, because these guys are really cool, they run a really cool company, and they do foster innovation and growth within their company.
And
by
they have
the way,
the coolest dog.
They do have the coolest dog in the place. Please bring the 3-meter dinosaur back. I think that's cool. So we're going to give them a definite Lint send-off. So thanks very much for Lint for being our sponsor. And again, thank you very much, Shashi and Nick, for being on the show with us. Let's have a Lint. Can't wait to get into this, tuck into this. We'll see you guys on the next episode of SME Biz. And up until then, thanks for watching. And I wish we had doggy treats.
I kind of jumped the gun.
Yeah, that's okay, not a problem.
We actually appreciate people who dig into their chocolate, so I've been talking too much.
All right,
Bye
see
for
you.
now.
Bye.